here's an experiment that we can do that shows a little bit about where color comes from and how it actually can change during cooking. So, with this one, what you need are several things. 3 glasses, this is almost like a magic trick. 3 glasses that look the same. So a leaf of a red cabbage, some hot water, some window cleaner with ammonia, some ordinary vinegar. You tear off a piece about the size of a loonie or toonie, rip the whole leaf up into these pieces, and then put them in boiling water. Let them sit for 1/2 to 3/4 of an hour. You stir it every once in a while. And what you end up with is this dark blue juice. You can still see the leaves in there. What you want to do after that is strain the leaves, strain the juice, take the leaves out. You can compost them. And then you take this dark blue juice and add some water to it so it ends up looking light blue like this. Okay? Now, you take your 3 glasses, and I like to use glasses that look the same. Into one, I have put a little bit of a window cleaner with ammonia in it. Into another, I put a tiny little bit of water. You want it to look like the glasses are empty, or that they've got the same amount of stuff in them. And into the third one, I'm going to put a little bit of ordinary household vinegar, just a smidge. Okay, now if you're doing this magic trick in front of people, you want to do this ahead of time so they don't see it. So when you're ready to do the trick, you take your dilute blue cabbage juice, well it's blue now, and you pour it in. Ready? Magic. Same blue juice, 3 different colors. Why did that happen? The one that had the vinegar in it, vinegar is a weak acid. And it turns out that acid turns this cabbage juice pink. A window cleaner with ammonia is the opposite of an acid, it's called a base. And it turns the blue cabbage juice green. This was the one that had the little bit of water in it. It didn't change the color at all. Now things that have color are colored because the molecules of the coloring agent, whether it's a paint or something called a pigment, the molecules have a certain shape, and when light hits those molecules, they get excited and then they give off whatever color you see. The acid changes the shape of the cabbage juice molecules from blue to red, and the base changes the cabbage juice molecules, the shape of them, so they give off green light. And if you don't want to deal with cabbage juice and vinegar and ammonia, there are other things that you can find around the house. So for example, I've had some tea brewing, and here's the tea bag. So I started that up beforehand. I'm just going to squeeze out that tea bag, and let's see what happens when I squish the lemon into the tea. And I'll give it a little bit of a stir. You can see that it's gotten lighter, a lighter color. And it's not just because there was a lot of juice in it, there wasn't. It's the acid that's in the lemon juice that changes the tea and makes it lighter. Now if you want it to be a little bit more dramatic, you can make the tea a little bit weaker so it shows the change a bit more. So lots of different color changes that you can play with in the kitchen. So another example of color change is a fun one to do. And for this one you need a glass of water, some ordinary red food coloring, and some household bleach. Now because you're working with bleach, you might want to have parents around, you might want to wear an apron so that you don't get any of it on your clothes. So here's what you do. Take your glass of water, take your red food coloring, throw in the food coloring, and I'm going to give it a stir. Now I'm going to pour in the bleach. Now if you want to do this as a magic trick, put it in another container so it doesn't look like bleach. It looks like you're just pouring water into it. And the color disappears. And to show a little bit dramatically about that, you can now give the glass the water a little bit of a stir and put red food coloring in, and it keeps disappearing. No matter how much you pour in, it goes away. So texture of food is really important to us. We expect our bread to be nice and airy and foamy, and we want our apples to be crisp. So let's find out, here's a fun experiment that you can do to find out where the bubbles in bread come from. So here's what you need. You need a glass bottle, you need some sugar, you need some quick-acting yeast, and you need a balloon. And some hot water. Water around 50 degrees Celsius, halfway to boiling. Now, if you have a funnel, it's good. I'm using a little paper funnel here. So you put in a teaspoon of sugar into the bottle. And now I'm going to add the yeast. There we go. And now I'm going to add my water. Okay, and I'm going to swirl it around, and then I'm going to stretch this balloon over the top of the bottle. There we go. Make sure the balloon is deflated. There's no air in the balloon. Okay? And now you put the balloon in a warm water bath. Now what it means is just you want to keep it warm. Now I'll just say what's going on in here. The yeast is actually living stuff, but they're kind of in suspended animation. They're asleep. And by warming them up in water, you are waking them up. You're waking up these little yeast critters. And I'm just going to pour off some of this water again just so it doesn't overflow. And I'm going to swirl this every once in a while. The sugar that you put in is food for them, because think about it. When you wake up in the morning, what do? You have breakfast. So basically we're giving the yeast breakfast. Okay? So I'm going to swirl it some more. And the yeast is going to wake up, start eating the sugar, and we'll see what happens. And it takes about 3 or 4 minutes till we start to see something happening. So every minute or so you can give it a swirl, and then just let it sit and wait. So after about 1.5 minutes, you can see it's getting all foamy there. That's the yeast breathing. And look what's happening with our balloon. It's puffing up. And what it's puffing up with is carbon dioxide. Some of the same gas that you breathe out when you're breathing. You're using the energy in your food to give you energy, but you also breathe out carbon dioxide as a waste gas, and so does the yeast. And look at this, our balloon is standing up. The foaminess, you can see the sugar and yeast and water mixture is making bubbles. So when you make bread with yeast, the yeast wakes up and they breathe out carbon dioxide, making the bubbles that are in the bread. So that when you bake the bread, it goes from a liquid with bubbles in it to a solid that's got bubbles in it.